Good morning, Big Brother fans. It is Monday, September 24th. And I'm not going to have a whole lot of Big Brother to talk about. I'm going to tell you that up front and right now. I'll talk about a few other things, though, once I'm done talking about Big Brother. And so you can choose to hang with me or not. So on the Big Brother front, let's see. Friday is the last time I did this on here. And, we have a winner of part 2. So we knew that Tyler had won part 1. And Casey and JC on Saturday faced off in part 2. Well, I will say that secretly I was hoping JC would win part 2 just to kind of make it interesting. But he didn't. Casey won part 2. So Tyler and Casey will face off in part 3 on Wednesday night. I don't know how, probably at least halfway through the show. Well, the show's only 90 minutes long. So, but they still, for the TV viewer, they've only seen the very beginning of part 1. So the TV viewer doesn't even know what's coming. They're going to have to throw all that together, plus jury house stuff. Yeah, we'll see. They'll get it all done, and we'll figure it out. We'll talk about it on Thursday, because yes, indeed, we are doing a finale podcast. It was finally confirmed on Saturday that we will do a finale show 9 p.m. on Thursday. Not Saturday, 9 p.m. on Thursday. Remind me to take off Friday. I'm probably going to, so I can recover, unless I just sit there and drink tea while we do our show. I'd really rather not have to get up early on Friday and go into work. But anyways, so Casey won part 2 on Saturday, and they're done. There's nothing left to do. I've turned on the feeds for like 2 or 3 minutes yesterday. I'm keeping track. I'm kind of sticking my head in. I follow Joker's updates, by the way. Those of you that don't ever check out Joker's updates, you should check out Joker's updates. They have a live feed update place where lots of fellow fans type in things that are happening. It is not all inclusive by any means, and it is selective in that, if nobody's doing it, then you're going to have a gap, and also sometimes there's just nothing going on. But it is a good starting point, at least for me, to see what the heck's going on. It's very similar to what we did at TV Clubhouse the first when I was a moderator there. I still am, I guess. I think I still am actually a moderator there, but that's just kind of a courtesy appointment. I don't do any moderating anymore. But They have a live feed update page too, but it's not nearly as active. It was extremely active in the days before we had flashback and things like that. And so people just go in, type the stuff that's going on. If you go to Joker's updates, you can find on the very front, it has live feed updates. It has quick view. It takes you to a web page. It's basically just a web page of live feed updates. And you can check out what's gone on in the last 10 minutes or the last 10 hours, depending on how busy the house guests are. So that's one place you can go. There's other places. There's places that put out daily summaries. I know Big Brother Network puts out a daily live feed summary. Well, I don't know if they are now, because now that the feeds are pretty much done. But Matt and his crew at Big Brother Network are usually good about doing that. I think I've mentioned this stuff before. I'm pretty sure I have. But if I hadn't, there's other resources that you can stash away for next year. Because while I don't think Big Brother has officially been renewed, it has been reported by multiple outlets now that Julie Chen still wants to stay on and do Big Brother. Or should I say Julie Chen Moonves, because that's what she's going by now since last week, or since 2 weeks ago. So anyways, that's what I was peeking my head in and seeing if there was anything going on. I retweet Joker's updates every once in a while as well. They actually pipe that website, the updates part of that website, into their Twitter. So if you've seen me retweet it, you can just follow that as a Twitter account. There's never anything. It's pretty much just retweets of or tweets of what is showing up on that page. So it's a good place to kind of stick your head and go, oh, okay, now I know what's going on. I, unlike a lot of people, don't follow a ton of accounts. I follow a very limited number of accounts. I follow less than 100. And most of my accounts actually don't tweet a whole lot. So I really only follow a very, very limited number of accounts, just to keep an eye on what's going on. There's other ways to do that. You could also just make your lists and use something like TweetDeck to follow lists. Wow, I'm really not talking about Big Brother much, am I? I'm just talking about other stuff. That's okay. Some of you guys like this. A lot of you like this. I'm glad you like it. But it's just strange sometimes that I get paranoid that I'm running off and rambling, and I'm thinking, no, actually, some people like that I do it this way. So, what else to tell you? So they did tie-dye yesterday. That's what I know. I knew they were getting the tie-dye kits, and I saw someone tweeting the results of the tie-dye. And that's what I've got about that. They're going to have nothing to do until Wednesday, and some people have been saying, when do the feeds go through? Well, the feeds, I believe, go until Wednesday morning. They get shut off at some point early Wednesday morning, and that's it. They're done. At least I think that's what I did last year. I'd have to go back and look. So they got their tie-dye. They're sleeping in. They're doing stuff. JC is going to get left behind. Don't know if it's going to be Tyler or Casey that makes the cut, but I do think that it's going to be a final of Tyler and Casey. And I think Casey will probably win. Not 100% certain, but I'm feeling pretty strongly. And I'm going to guess that Tyler's going to get America's favorite player. That's my prediction. JC gets third, gets nothing. Tyler gets second and America's favorite player. And Casey wins it all. That's my guess. What else now? So let's talk about some other stuff, because I'm actually getting further along on my drive than I thought I was going to, so I should try to get on to the other stuff that I was thinking of talking about. We did our podcast on Saturday. If you've not heard it, you should check it out. Those of you that have never heard it, well, silly you, why not? But I'm thinking most of you had, and as you know, at the beginning of every show, much to some people's disdain, we do stories about our executive producers. Look, those people are wonderful enough to chip in a good chunk of change every show to support our show, and in kind, or in return, Colette has always gone digging and found really interesting information and stories about these producers. I almost said house guests. About these producers. And this week, as it turned out, because Colette was flying back from Arizona to her home, she had said, look guys, I'm going to be not going to have time to do this. I'm going to be wiped out, worn out. I'm going to give you guys the duty of writing these stories. And so Scott and I each took 5, because we have one super producer and 9 executive producers currently. So we each took 5. Well, she assigned them to us, by the way. We didn't take them. She gave us the ones, which is fine. And we wrote these stories. Scott wrote his, I think, on Friday. I actually, little behind the scenes, here's a little behind the scenes thing. So, Colette did this last weekend where she gave each of us one, but she kind of sprung it on us late. She kind of sprung it on me at like 9:30 in the morning on Saturday. She said, here, write this about Vince. And I'm like, what? I'm got a whole day of planned of things to do. I really don't have time to write a story. I thought we were doing this week, next week. I thought we were doing it this week. And she and I went back and forth, and I did write a story for Vince, but she misunderstood and thought, and went and said, no, that's fine, I'll do it. And so she wrote a story for Vince. So last Saturday, I was supposed to read a story for Vince, and Colette still had one, so only Scott did a story last week. But I had a story written for Vince, and so I just reworked that story for Vince, and told it this past weekend. So Vince's story was actually, I wrote that a week ago. So I had to write 4 stories on Saturday because I procrastinated and put things off, and I wrote my 4 stories, and I was actually fairly happy with them. They were fun to do. Colette intentionally gave me one about, is it Phil and Angie, I think? Phil and Angie, the Swingers? Yeah, she intentionally gave me that one. And I wish I could say that I wish I'd had more time to do a little bit more prep on that, because I would have written it a little bit better. I would have done the editing a little bit better, because I actually recorded it so that Scott could play it because of the way it played. I'm being a bit vague only because I think there may be a few of you who have actually not listened to the podcast yet. So if you've heard it, or when you hear it, that was pre-recorded. I recorded it about 5 after 8, and I get on with Scott and Colette at like 8:30. So I only had recorded it right before, and I would have really liked to tweak it and work on it, but I didn't have time. So it went over fine, and it was good, and it was funny, and everybody laughed. But there's some behind-the-scenes stories about the stories that were told this week. What else to tell you? Oh, I don't know. I think that's about it for Big Brother stuff. Look, the show's on Wednesday. Part of me is just like, I don't even want to do one of these this morning. I was just listening to the news and thought, nope, I need to do it. So I could talk a little bit about Big Brother UK as well. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can talk about before then. Those of you that follow Better Call Saul, I haven't watched last week's episode yet. Still need to watch that. I went to a musical last night. Saw Something Rotten. We got last-minute tickets to go to the Broadway tour of, or it's, I don't know if it's whatever it is. It's a Broadway production. It's like a full Broadway show, and it's called Something Rotten, which I'd never heard of until I saw it advertised as coming to this area, and it looked really interesting. But I'll be honest, I was cheap, and I'm like, ain't gonna spend the money. Plus, it was a Sunday night, and I was like, nah, I gotta go to work the next day. I don't know, but as it happens, one of our friends works for the organization that runs the theater that they come to, and she messaged us late in the or early afternoon on Sunday and said, if you guys want to come, I've got a couple of tickets. And like, yep, we're going to be there. So I went and saw that. Really good show. You should check it out if it comes into your area. It's very funny. I like laughing. I'm cool with musicals. I like musicals. I'm not a big drama person. I don't like to see dramas. I don't care for dramas that much. Give me something funny. I go to the theater to laugh and to have a good time. I don't need to walk out, that was intense. So, yeah, it's a good show. Lots of innuendo, lots of references to other musicals. And those of you that know me know that I like musicals, and I did musicals in high school and all that. But, yes. All right, enough of that talk. What next? Oh! The Emperor's New Clothes. Nobody knew what... Amazingly, I can't believe how many people had no idea what the Emperor's New Clothes was. Now, was this Friday or Thursday? I think it was Friday. If it wasn't Friday, if I'm repeating myself, apologies. But the Emperor's New Clothes, a ton of you had never heard that story. A ton of you, including my sister. Love you, Susan, but I got to call you out. But that's okay, Susan. You're not alone. My wife. Oh, and John that I have lunch with. So my 3 people that I had, my sister messages me and said, that's an interesting story. I'll have to check it out. And then at lunch, I'm like, John, have you heard of that? John's like, no, never heard that story. I'm like, what? And then my wife, nope, haven't heard it. I had at least one person who's an English teacher tweeted at me and said, oh, yeah. And then yeah, okay, I'm not the only one. There's been several short movies or there's cartoons all about the Emperor's New Clothes. I'm just surprised at how many people don't know it. And my wife and I, early in the day yesterday, were out to lunch and ran into one of her coworkers who's a high school English teacher. And my wife said, you got to ask her. And I'm like, about what? She's like, about that thing. I was like, yeah, okay. And I looked at her and said, yeah, the Emperor's New Clothes. She goes, yeah, what about it? I said, yeah, a lot of people haven't heard of that. She's like, what? Like, yeah, a lot of people don't know that story. So it was funny. I'm sorry, I'm now driving off roads, and I'm going to, not off roads, but I'm driving a side street, and okay. Had to get around a big garbage truck that was driving on the wrong side of the road. All right, so there's your Emperor's New Clothes update, and finally we're going to talk about Big Brother UK. There are spoilers in this Big Brother UK. Do not listen if you're still going to watch the show. And by the way, you're over a week late now. You better get with it if you're going to watch the show. But I will now be spoiling Big Brother UK in a couple of minutes and offering my thoughts about the show. All right? So it's time for those of you that want to catch up and haven't watched it to turn off. I promise not to talk about anything else. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye. Okay, you think they're gone? All right. So, Big Brother UK. First eviction was Friday. So there's been a Friday show and a Sunday show since I last talked to you. And I can't pronounce her name. The evictee. Amadelia, whatever her name was. I was shocked, but it was a vote to evict. That's where the difference between, usually it is a vote to save. She would have been safe if it was a vote to save, I guarantee you. But since it was a vote to evict, people had to pick between two people who are very unoffensive, very calm, nice people in the house, and one person who's very polarizing, very confrontational, and you knew she was going to get the most votes. As soon as I heard it was a vote to evict, I thought, she's gone. There's no way. There's no way she's not going to get the most. But in a vote to save, then more people would have voted actually to save her. I know it's weird, but that's the case. More people would have voted to save her, and less people would have voted for the other two. It's just the way it works, which is why they usually do a vote to save, because it tends to eliminate the boring, quiet house guests that don't get much attention. This next week, I think, is a vote to save. So I think they're back. I think they'll be back with that. So she's evicted. Blah, blah, whatever. The main reason I said I wanted to talk about it was because they, a couple of things, actually. Tomas has really bad snoring. And they actually, and I'm going to say this wrong. Someone's going to correct me, but just to, they actually had him do a maybe not a sleep study, but they had him go see a doctor. And they've hooked him up with maybe it's a CPAP. I don't know. It's a mask that he puts on his face that blows the air that keeps him from snoring and helps him sleep well. Apparently it was a big success. And I guess, maybe it lets the rest of the house sleep, which may be the main reason they did it, because the rest of the house was not sleeping well. So that was interesting. And people made a comment about why didn't they do that last season with Celebrity, because one of the cast in the Celebrity had a really bad snoring habit. The other thing is Cameron. Cameron is the youngest cast member, and I am 100% sure that in one of my car casts, like the first week, that I said, I think Cameron's gay. I think Cameron is gay, and they knew it, and they brought him on the show because they might get him to come out and to reveal that he's gay on Big Brother. And if I didn't say all that, I sure as heck was thinking all of it, and I was hesitant to say it because I didn't want to be accused of, saying something that wasn't accurate. But I just really thought, I think it was one of those questions where the guys are sitting around and one of them says to Cameron, "What's your type?" Because they were all talking about the different women, and Cameron's like, "I really don't have a type." And I thought, oh, Cameron's gay. And I thought when Louis F, he's like, "Oh, you're just like a brother." And I think Cameron has a crush on Louis F in a certain way. I don't think he looks at Louis F as a brother. I think he has a little bit of a crush on him, which is fine, totally fine. But I thought this was the case. And last night on the Big Brother episode that they showed last night, he pretty much said that, talked about coming out. So it's going to probably happen before the episode's over. But I have no doubt at this point. The innuendo is all over the place. The talk about him and his secret and stuff. He's gay, which is fine. It may come out during the show. There are 2 men in the house that are gay and a woman in the house that's gay, out of the closet gay. So I would think that he's going to come out during the season, which is very, very cool, and it'll make a good story. I hope it's not a surprise to his parents. I hope they had kind of had a little bit of a clue on that, because that would be the weird thing, is that he's doing it in the house. But I think maybe he's finding that as the way that he can do it. That he was just like, I'm going to do this. It's going to be a big thing, and he'll have that barrier between the time that he actually does it and he actually has to see his family and figure it out. So this should be interesting, assuming it happens sometime, and assuming it happens at all. Anyways, that is my little spoiler stuff about Big Brother UK that I don't think is much of a spoiler. If you've been watching it, it's not a spoiler at all. I'm going to go now because I'm sitting in my car and I need to get my button to work. You guys have a good day. I will probably talk to you tomorrow. And then we'll see what else is up, all right? See you guys. Take care. Remember, we do have one more podcast. Those of you that are still, want to support the Big Brother Gossip Show, if you sign up today and you make a donation, I think you only get charged for one show, because we're only going to do one more show. I think that's the way it works, is that you get charged for every show we do after you sign up. So you should only get charged for one show. But honestly, if you want to do it another way, you can sign up. You can say, I'm going to sign up at whatever level, and you can, don't think you can do whatever level, but I think you can max yourself out at I'm going to give a maximum of $5. That's my max. And, per month. And it'll just be $5 and that'll be it. And we won't do another show until, if there's a Big Brother celebrity before next summer, we won't have any more shows, so you won't be charged at all after that. You get a one-time $5 charge, and that'll be it. So there's a way to make a one-time donation if you want to. Plus, you can cancel afterwards. Anyways, take care, everybody. I'm going to go, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. See ya. Bye-bye.